Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. We haven't seen you in a while. We were just here last night due to a wonky schedule, but excited to be back talking football with my guy, Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Doing well. There's some basketball going on tonight, so we might have some viewers watching that. The Thunder try to go up 2-0 on the Timberwolves. But I'm excited for the show because, we've done some more serious stuff and in-depth breakdowns and whatnot. And this is just bold predictions. Let it fly, have some fun, and don't look back at your old ones.
Yes, I did look back at the old ones, which we can touch on some of them if you want. But yeah, I got back downstairs after our recording last night. Turned on the TV so I could start cooking dinner. The Knicks were up like 17 at that point in time.
Yep.
I love Kevin Harlan. To me, he's like one of the best announcers, particularly in basketball, where he can really shine. There's a lot more room for him, I think, in that space. And he was going crazy. And I'm like, what is going on? And then this Pacers guy is just draining threes left and right. It was an insanely good game. I hope everybody in the chat, looks like most people here were watching. It was so much fun. That is what makes the conference finals so special in the NBA. We'll see what happens with the Western Conference. The Thunder kind of look like a buzzsaw at this point in time, but maybe Anthony Edwards can kind of pull some magic out of the hat today and make things a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I did not watch the end of the game because I thought the Knicks had it, no problem, and I'm not super invested in either of those teams. So hopefully our guy Jason with the Chargers is okay as a big Knicks fan. Hopefully he's hanging in there. But yeah, crazy game.
Yeah, Knicks fans are not doing great. Stephen A. Smith's monologue from this morning was hilarious. He was not having a good time. So it was great. That series should be very entertaining. I'm a little less optimistic that the Timberwolves can actually keep that one interesting, but we'll see what happens. Good segue to talk about our friends over at PrizePicks, the best and easiest way to consume daily fantasy sports. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. So you can't partake of Flex Friday for tonight's game, but you can for tomorrow's Pacers and Knicks game. It's a great special that PrizePicks is running, where you are able to go in and make sure you opt in and tap the checkbox in your lineup builder to be eligible for the protected play. So you can choose squares from any game on the board. If your lineup does not win, you get your net losses back in promo funds up to your promo limit as soon as the lineup sets. So this is a great opportunity. I know I personally I don't like to spend money all that much. And so the idea of setting these lineups and potentially losing money kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety. But that's what's great about PrizePicks. They do specials like this. You don't have to get 100% on your lineup to win money. You can still win if you win 4 or 5, still win 3 of 5, etc. That's one of my favorite features of the app. And so the Guilty as Charged podcast is sponsored by PrizePicks, and we have loved working with them. So you can take advantage of the final remaining basketball playoffs today by going to the PrizePicks app, downloading it, use the code GUILTY to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is code GUILTY to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. The website does work, but we are really trying to push out the app for you guys because it just is a little bit more user-friendly, and that's where you can use the code GUILTY. So again, the PrizePicks app, wherever you get your apps, is available. So shout out to PrizePicks. Again, prizepicks.com/guilty, code GUILTY at checkout if you use the internet version. All right, let's talk some Chargers bold predictions here. Again, these are bold ones. We are not trying to just do a prediction show. I think this can be an opportunity for us to maybe get some ideas out there that we haven't really talked a ton about, and do it in a way where this is a bold prediction where we don't have to be super accountable. So last year on this space, I thought that Alohi Gilman could maybe challenge for a Pro Bowl contention. That didn't happen, but he was coming off a career high season in 2022, 2023. And I felt good about that bold prediction at the time. It didn't work out, but it is what it is. So Tyler, I'll let you go first here. What is your first Chargers bold prediction for the 2025 season?
Yeah, gotta start off with the thumbnail guy, Lad McConkey. And I think Lad McConkey will break Lance Allworth's single season receiving yards record for the Chargers, of course. Allworth had 1,602 in 1965. McConkey had 1149 in the regular season last year.
Yeah.
I think McConkey is going to pass that this year. Granted, if he passes that, I don't know what that means for the running game or any other receiver. but I do believe McConkey will pass that because, like, if he takes a small step forward, he doesn't have to do a lot more. It's just Greg Roman wasn't fully trusting him last year. He was a rookie. There were minor injuries here and there. If he plays the whole season and Greg Roman doesn't have the training wheels on him like he did for 4, 5, 6 games last year, I think he can do it. So maybe that's not even bold, but still a 400-yard jump would be very bold, would be awesome. But I also didn't think McConkey would break Keenan Allen's rookie record, and he did by a lot.
Yeah, the receptions record was one that I thought about doing. Keenan's obviously 109 from a couple seasons ago was one that I thought about, but that's a pretty significant jump forward. You're talking about like I think it's like 35, 36 catches from last year, which you know it's doable, but I just don't know if he'll have the volume in that regard. So I was looking at single season records just like you were. My headspace was with Lad as well. So in terms of his yardage, so he had you mentioned the 1149 in 2024 that ranked 21st all time in single season Chargers history. A lot of very positive Lance Allworth and Keenan Allen seasons in there. Same thing for Antonio Gates. So for him to get into the top 10 all time, he only needs to get to 1225. So that is very doable. I think that's kind of more of a lukewarm take that he could get to 1225. That would put him at 10th. But I think 1600 is definitely bold. I think my lukewarm take would be about 1300 right now, and I think that is very reasonable at this point in time, assuming positive health and all that.
Yes, I don't want to say more because I wanted to hear what yours are first, but there's a couple of other single season records. Did you have one?
For Lad?
No, just for any particular player.
No, so Lad was the record holder for single season on offense. I did have a defensive single season record that I think could be broken, but that's also more lukewarm because he almost did it last year. And so
Yeah.
Rodney Harrison had 6 sacks in 2000, which is the most of a I guess it's the most of a defensive back in Chargers franchise history. So Derwin James had 5.5 last year. And so lukewarm take, I guess, here is that Derwin breaks that record, which would also have him passing Rodney Harrison in the all-time sack department in terms of a defensive back. And that, I think Derwin James is at 17.5 for his career. So if he breaks that record, that would put him over 20. Let's see. I had this up earlier. Where would that put him all time? In general, he could potentially get into like the top 20 if he plays his cards right. So not a super long list of great sack artists for the Chargers. Like Khalil Mack is already 15th all time on the franchise. So Rodney Harrison is currently 27th at 21.5. Derwin's 33rd at 17. So the single season record for Rodney was 6. I think Derwin passes that, but again, that's kind of more of a lukewarm take because he had 5.5 last year.
So what number do you want to go with then? Because I have a follow-up question depending on what you say.
So lukewarm would be breaking the 6, which would be like 6.5. I think. Yeah. I think bold take for Derwin sacks. I think he could get to 8.
Okay. My follow-up question is, does he lead the Chargers in sacks with 8?
No. I do have a take about that.
Okay.
But I think Derwin will probably, like, reasonable take is that he ends up with like 6.5.
Yeah.
Bold take is probably 8.5, which for a safety is a freaking ton.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he'll be 3rd on the team in sacks.
Okay, well, I'm very curious what that follow-up one is. So I'll troll over to keep on the defensive side of things, and maybe you can follow up with the other.
Sure.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go offense. I'm gonna change it up.
Yeah, do your thing.
Joe Alt will have the best individual season of any offensive tackle in football this year. I do not necessarily mean that. I don't think anyone would place him above Lane Johnson in terms of like where he's at, like
prestige,
right tackle number 1. Yeah, because there's you got to respect what Lane Johnson is.
Lane's been the best right tackle in football for like a decade.
Yes. But I believe as a bold prediction, which I don't know how bold it is considering he's like a top 7 tackle right now as is. Yeah, I think Joe Alt finishes with the best individual offensive tackle season in football. Maybe that's not necessarily just statistics, but your Brandon Thorns, your Duke Manyweathers, your Schwartzes, etc. I think if Joe Alt takes a step forward after being as good as he was last year, yeah, he's gonna take that crown.
Yeah, it would be a great time, have the Protector of the Year award, as Anthony points out, which I love. I think this is
That's sick.
amazing. Like, there are so many offensive linemen who should be in the Hall of Fame, but there's no awards, right? There's no MVPs, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. There's no awards for linemen. So a lot of these guys who maybe get in later, even if they had this award back then, it would be a huge help. So like, I think a guy like Zach Martin should be a no-brainer first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But because he's an offensive lineman, like maybe he isn't. Maybe he's a second ballot, right? But if he had this award and had 3 or 4 of them, then maybe he is a first ballot. So I love this by the NFL. I think it's fantastic move from them. Joe Alt winning the first one would be sick. I did have a Joe Alt take. I didn't go that spicy, but I went first team All Pro. Team All Pro was my bold Joe Alt take. So just kind of revisiting from last season, he had the 21st highest overall grade, was actually graded higher than Rashawn Slater was. He was the 4th highest graded right tackle, and he was 16th in pass blocking efficiency overall and 6th at right tackle. I think the Chargers did keep a little bit of training wheels on him for last season. Like even, some of the games where, he only really had like 6 or 7 true pass set reps against, TJ Watt, for example, which that's TJ Watt. But this year, I think they will say, hey, like, you're good. We'll take those training wheels off. Like we don't need to chip as much. He doesn't look like he's that much bigger and stronger from what we can tell in pictures right now. But all of the pictures that I see, he's almost always like the first tackle, like he's the first offensive lineman in his stance in the pictures. From granted, it's OTAs. So that's been, I think, his biggest hangup, because everything else he's so good at. But there are some edge rushers who did kind of beat him to his spot a couple of times. Obviously, TJ Watt did that. Max Crosby did it once or twice. But if he can consistently get to his spot off the ball, like Rashawn is so good at that. Rashawn is always at his spot first. And then he has the anchor, he has the technique. But if Joe can learn that from Rashawn and be 6 inches taller and 30 pounds heavier and the wingspan, I think we should, reasonably expect Joe Alt to be at minimum, he should be in the Pro Bowl conversation. Like worst case scenario for 2025. I went bold prediction and said he was first team All Pro, because that's what you have to do for a bold prediction if you want to talk about Joe Alt, because you're talking about Lane and Penei Sewell, obviously, in that same kind of conversation. So it's not as fun to say, oh, he should be in the Pro Bowl conversation. Like, duh. So bold prediction, I think first team All Pro for Joe Alt.
Yeah, I think it would almost be a disappointment for him to not be in Pro Bowl conversation, All Pro conversation. Again, it's very difficult with Penei and Lane Johnson both ahead of him. I think when we talk about Joe Alt's second contract, he's ahead of both of those guys, which is insane to say. Although I don't know how much longer Lane Johnson's going to play. I think having a more stable right guard situation in terms of play should help, I would imagine, and it looks fantastic together. I think the media is going to cover Joe Alt more positively, because everyone's going to be obsessed with the right side of that line, just purely from like a run blocking perspective. What do you think of like the schedule for the Chargers in terms of edge rushers? Because I feel like last year there was more of a murderer's row, but maybe that's more D tackle. You have Chiefs, Raiders, Denver, of course, but then Giants, Commanders, Dolphins, Colts, Vikings, Titans, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Vegas, Philly, Chiefs, Dallas, which sucks, Houston, and Denver. It's not like, I don't know.
That's not like as bad as last year.
I don't think so. I don't remember. Obviously, they still have to play like the division rivals 6 times, and they have good players like Max Crosby. But I don't know. It doesn't strike me as like a super difficult schedule for him.
No, he did very well last year against the Chiefs and Broncos edge rushers. So I don't think I'm super worried there, which is great.
Yeah.
I think Max Crosby is probably going to be a little aggressive in trying to show that last year was maybe a bit of a fluke, but that's the expectation for Joe Alt. The Giants, not super worried there, like Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. They're good players, but they're not like amazing players. The The Dolphins, if Jalen Phillips can come back, I'd be maybe a little concerned there, but he's obviously got a major injury to come back from. The Colts, Laiatu Latu hasn't really done enough quite yet. The Vikings, who do the Vikings even have at edge? I guess that's more Dallas Turner.
Dallas Turner,
and Van Ginkel, but that's Titans, same kind of thing. Not super worried. TJ Watt, he played great against the Chargers, but after that, he did not have a great end to the season for himself. No. He actually had the worst pass rusher in rate of his career last year.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Josh Allen for the Jags. The Eagles obviously lost Sweat. I forget his first name right now.
Josh,
thank you. Texans, I'm a little worried about. I mean,
saw that.
Danielle Hunter. Weirdly enough, Danielle Hunter is the edge rusher who made Joe Alt have his worst game, which Danielle Hunter is good. I never would have guessed that, honestly. But Hunter is kind of a freak, and like he does a Euro step spin move that's insane. So
that's right. God. Yeah.
But it is an easier edge rusher schedule for sure this year.
I think so. Just quick follow-up questions to sort of talking about it. If you're an edge rusher this year, who would you want to go up against more? Do they actually, like, where are we at in terms of the hierarchy of where you line up? I think early you still test Joe Alt. How long until everyone's going, let's try Slater? Or does every edge rusher become a D tackle and just go straight at like Boseman and Zion?
So like if you're like somebody who can do that, like Danielle Hunter and Micah Parsons, those guys who can go on the inside, I think that's probably where they would go. I think early it's still let's test the younger guy who hasn't done it as much and got a lot more like chip help. But I think by the end of the season, what a good problem to have, man. Like you all know how I feel about Rashawn Slater, and I think he's the best player on the team right now. And I know that's a take that is not super kindly received on social media. But I think by the end of the season, I think Joe Alt could be the best player on the team, which is a really good problem to have, where your two tackles are your first and third or second, depending on your order. Your top three players on the team, two of them are offensive tackles. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it is. It is nice for sure.
All right. Our audio audience is going to take a quick break, and our YouTube audience is going to continue right along here. So I wanted to have a take on here about Tuli Tuiopulotu. And I wasn't sure, like, okay, what qualifies for a bold take or not regarding Tuli. And so my bold take here is that by the end of the season, we are going to talk about Tuli as the best edge rusher on the team.
Ooh.
And so I know that there's not a ton of excitement about Tuli heading into the season. I know people loved his rookie season. There's a lot of talk about maybe did he regress in 2024? What really happened here? So a couple snap count things I want to point out from 2024 versus 2023. He actually played more special team snaps in 2024 than he did in 2023, believe it or not. He had 363 special team snaps this past season, which is second most on the team. And then in 2023, that number was only 204. So you're talking about almost 160 more special team snaps. When you're a starter, like you are playing over 45 snaps a game on defense and also playing 363 snaps on special teams. He was a core 4 special teams player for them while also being, one of their main edge rushers. So that's kind of crazy. In 2023, he only had 9 snaps as a non-edge rusher on the entire season, just 9. In 2024, that number was, let me make sure I get this right, 103. So again, almost 100 snaps more as a non-edge rusher. So that's rushing against the B gap, that's rushing against the A gap, that's rushing against guard centers. You're being double teamed more often because you're rushing as an interior player. So those two things, I think, do lead to some kind of combination that it was not maybe a situation that would have led him to taking as big of a leap as people would have hoped this past season. And we have to remember that, for probably 65% of the season, he was the third edge rusher and not the starter. So I think part of his regression maybe was his role. I think part of it is how we expected him to actually perform, and the amount of volume that he was going to have wasn't necessarily the same. When it comes to advanced statistics on PFF, his pass rush productivity rating was pretty identical from 2023 to 2024, but his pass rush win rate did increase from 11.9 to 13.4, and his pass rush win rate against true pass sets increased from 11.1 to 13.8 in 2024. So some improvement as a pass rusher, but I get it, like not nearly as much as people were expecting. But I went back and watched his like 5-game sample size where he was a true starter when Joey was dealing with his stuff, and then there was that game that Khalil missed. And in those games, I think if you really just isolate Tuli, I think you do see improvement as a pass rusher. Like in 2023, it was essentially power, speed to power, and not much else. But he hit Jack Conklin with a couple cross chops. He beat Trevor Penning in some spin moves. I know that's Trevor Penning, but like there are visual representations of him trying more things. And he's actually got a really, really good cross chop, which I think is something he's picked up from working with Joey and Khalil over these past few years. So I think the improvement was there. You just had to maybe like look for it a little bit. And so if you highlight that 6-week stretch from week 6 to 12, where he was essentially a starter, he had 25 total pressures, which was 14th most in the league, 8 sacks, third most. He had a pass rush productivity rating of 8.8, which is higher than 6.7 when he, like 6.7 is what he had on the entire season, 8.8 during that stretch. His pass rush win rate was 15.8 as opposed to 13.4 on the season. So if you just highlight that stretch where he was a starter and he was not playing as much special teams and he wasn't rushing as much on the interior, the improvement was there. And I think part of this, unfortunately, is I think Khalil has maybe kind of taken a step back a little bit. But also, I just really believe that Tuli is going to actually take the step forward that people were expecting last season, because he's actually going to have a real opportunity to do so. This is part of the reason why I don't think the Chargers need to necessarily go out and sign like Von Miller, even though I would be like in favor it. I would get it. I really think that Tuli is going to take a significant step forward, which is great. And I haven't even really talked about his run defense, which is still outstanding. Like he's one of the best run defending edge rushers in the league already at age 21. And so that's the other thing here, is that he is still very young. Like it generally takes pass rushers until they're like 25, 26 to really, really figure it out. And he's 21 and he's had one of the best rookie edge rusher seasons in PFF history in 2023 and was still very good last year. So I do think we see him take that big leap. And I think by the end of the season, we recognize him as the best edge rusher on the team.
Okay, so just to clarify, it's best edge rusher, not necessarily best pass rusher, or
best
it
edge
could
rusher,
be both, but
best
it could
edge
be
rusher
both in there. Okay. Regarding the snaps, I was actually just very curious if combining the two of them, like how much did Tuli play and how, different is that from other edge rushers? And obviously he's not a full-time starter. I get that, but Max Crosby, the guy who's known for playing like every snap of every game. You look at like 2023 where he led all defenders or defensive linemen, I should say, in snaps. He played 1,097 snaps if you include what he did on special teams. So he had like 1080 as a defender, 17 snaps on special teams. Tuli last year, if you include special teams, played 1,071 snaps as an edge rusher and special teamer. That's very taxing on a defensive lineman.
Yeah,
I understand that he's not like he didn't play over 1,000 snaps on defense, but the combined total, all those snaps, that's very taxing and takes away from your ability to truly be that guy on defense, play defense. So him getting on the field, just focusing on that again, like if Kennard hits or you have to bring in somebody else, fine, but like let Tuli be that guy. So yeah, I think I buy it. I buy it because Tuli, we've seen it. He can take that step forward, and I think he will. The base, like the floor is there with the run defense. And like you said, I don't think Khalil Mack's going to like jump back up into 80 pressures this year. So yeah, I think by, film, maybe 50-50, like pretty close, but like statistically, yeah, I think Tuli does just like take that step forward this year and be the better edge rusher.
Yeah, I think where the Chargers go on the edge next year is going to be very interesting, because in an ideal world, you get the flashes from Kyle Kennard, and he takes over as edge 3 next year. we'll see about Khalil Mack. I think the Chargers would bring him back if he wanted to come back. But next year they'll have the cap space to potentially go out and be a little bit more aggressive if they want to go get a potential edge rusher who's going to be, you know, a clear upgrade from Khalil. They could obviously take a first round edge rusher. And then Tuli, I think if he's a supercharged number 2, no pun intended there, I think that's a great scenario for the Chargers where they could have, you know, 2 really good edge rushers going forward for a long time. And then maybe Kyle Kennard becomes that next guy as well. So I know that there's not a ton of optimism about like the Chargers pass rush, but if Tuli does what I think he can do, I think the Chargers will be improved from last year. Even though it might not be like they're not going to be a top 10 team in pressures and stuff like that. Like they just don't have the interior guys to make that happen. Yeah. But Tuli, Khalil, you know, Bud Dupree, who's kind of a cleanup merchant, and Kyle Kennard, I think the 4 edge rushers can do enough to improve the pass rush overall.
Yeah, I like the edge rusher room. I don't like think it's a great elite room, but I love the floor of the room.
I guess Derwin says that he thinks that Matt could play for another 5 years at a high level. 5 is probably a stretch because Khalil is 34,
I think. Yeah, 34. He says 34 on PFF.
Okay, so he just turned 34 in February. So high level for 5 years, he would be 39. Like, that's probably a stretch. I think Khalil can be very good for this upcoming season and next season.
Yeah.
But pass rushers beyond 35 just don't really, unfortunately, like that cliff does. It happens for all of them. So, you know, apparently he told Popper that. Okay. Interesting. Khalil can play very good for the next 2 years. And then I think he'll probably morph into that like mercenary, you know, edge rusher type of role where he plays, you know, 20 to 25 snaps a game.
Yeah.
I don't know. He could also retire. Like he's flirted with retiring a bunch of times. So 5 years is a stretch.
Yeah, I think could he play for 5 years? Yes. Can play at a high level for 5 years? I don't believe so. But I think he'll be a good player. But like you said, I don't think he's playing more than 3 more years, to be honest. Now, if he's healthy, all is good. They start winning, you know, playoff games, and you just want to hang in there and hey, get to a Super Bowl. Yeah, I could see it, but Mac having been so open about his decisions on, you know, potentially retiring multiple times now, kind of feels like it's en route within the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, I think for him, in probably like an ideal world, the Chargers win a Super Bowl this year and he just retires like on the spot. I think that's
definitely. Yeah, I'll also retire, by the way. Like show's over.
Yeah, I wonder where he's at like all time in sacks. So he's got 107 total sacks. He's 45th overall. If he has 10 more this year, let's say reasonably, you know, that would put him at 117, which would have him 33rd. If he got another 10 after that, that would put him at 25. So I think that's also part of it where he probably wants to get into the top 30 all time in sacks, but you know, he's got to put up good numbers over the next couple of years to make that happen.
Yeah. He's got to get to 201 sacks to pass Bruce Smith. Just kidding. Never happening.
Yeah. Tom says 100 sacks should put him in the Hall of Fame. Well, there's a Chargers defender with over 100 sacks that is not in the Hall of Fame. Leslie O'Neal has 132 career sacks, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. So
team leader too. Yeah,
team leader as well. Let's see. I wonder how many other guys are not in the Hall of Fame. So Terrell Suggs, he's got 139 all time. He's not currently, but I think he's also not been eligible. John Abraham, 133, not a Hall of Famer
for sure.
Yeah. Coy Bacon, 130. I don't even know that's a real name. Jim Marshall, 130. Von Miller's current. Robert Mathis, 123. Not a Hall of Famer. I don't even think he's been like a finalist or a semifinalist. Simeon Rice, 122, not a Hall of Famer. So 100 is not the number you think it is. Justin Houston, 112, not a Hall of Famer. Chandler Jones, 112, not a Hall of Famer. So, oh my gosh, Calais Campbell has 110 career sacks. I never would have guessed that. He's played forever though.
He's played for 2 decades practically at this point. So
Yeah,
that would be a nice career trajectory for Mack if he wants to. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Surely would he go down as a Charger or a Raider? If he wins a Super Bowl with the Chargers, he's going in as a Charger.
Yeah. I think he needs a few more years with the Chargers. Like he's at year 3, 4, 3, 4 with the Chargers.
This is year 4.
Okay. Yeah. Zion
2022, 23, 24, 25 would be 4.
I think he would get to 5. He never got the extension with the Raiders, right? He was traded pre-extension.
Yeah, so 4 years with the Raiders, 4 years with the Bears. This is year 4 with the Chargers. So he's after the season, he would be an even split.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be nice for it to be the Chargers, especially if I don't know. Well, cross the bridge when we get there, I guess.
I would say the Raiders would be the least likely of the 3 teams, honestly. Just based on like how he's talked and not talked about the Raiders. I don't think. To me, the question is Charger or Bear. Like I think the Bears would be more of a conversation than the Raiders would be, personally.
Yeah, depends on when and how and when this all goes down. But if the regime is still intact with the Chargers as well, where it is not with the other teams, it would also just kind of help things too. Like this is the team that, other than Telesco and Staley, I guess not being there, but
yeah. Although he did, so he was an All-Pro twice in Oakland, Defensive Player of the Year in Oakland, Defensive Rookie of the Year in Oakland. Maybe the voters kind of like make that be the Raiders, but I think if Khalil had his choice, I think it would not be the Raiders.
Yeah. Or as Anthony says, Raiders would be last because they suck.
They did not win a lot of games when he was there.
Such a what if. The Raiders were almost good, and then car got hurt, and they tore it up, and then some emails were sent out, and one guy drove too fast, and it was a whole mess.
Derek Carr still like loves Antonio Brown. Like he doesn't blame him at all for like the way that he acted.
First of all, I completely forgot somehow that Antonio Brown's a Raider.
Well, he was the guy. I thought he was the guy that you were talking about.
No, the other.
Then I realized that the Henry Ruggs thing.
The other 17 times a Raiders player fucked up. No, I was talking about Henry Ruggs. But yeah, Brown, I totally forgot about that. I don't know.
All right. What a fun conversation. I love Khalil. I'm kind of due for a new jersey, and I think I probably am going to choose Khalil just because he's been awesome. And he's like the fact that Khalil Mack in year 12 is like leading OTAs and voluntary workouts. It just should not be appreciated. It just is not appreciated enough. Like the leadership that he is bringing to the Chargers.
Isn't it weird that like we see Mack as this like veteran and set to retire? That's us in like 3 years. We're almost his age. It's kind of weird that we're like I see.
I'm 31 this year.
Yeah, I see him as such like he is like just a freaking grown man, a leader, but like an older guy, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm getting there in age.
Yeah. The next year's draft class would have been high school seniors. My first year counseling high school.
Jeez.
So that was like weird for me to think about the other day. So it's different for sure.
Interesting.
All right, Tyler, do you have another one or no?
Sure. Here's one. Because I wanted to throw like a slightly negative one in there. I do think though it has a positive end result. The Chargers will not have 1,000-yard rusher this year, but they will be a far better rushing offense. So now that could be 999 yards for Hampton and 998 yards for Harris.
That was going to be my next question.
So they could very much so have very good seasons. And if you talk about receiving yards, all-purpose yards, whatever, yeah, like both guys could put up, let's say, 2,000 total yards this year as a group. But I don't think the Chargers will have 1,000-yard rusher between them. But like I said, I think they will be a far better rushing attack.
Yeah, I think that part is definitely true. So you're penciling essentially like a true like 50-50 split. That's the part of your bold take that is bold.
I think there's that. I think that the fact that there's an actual receiving tight end that exists this year. I think the receiving weapons that they have.
Sure.
I think what Hampton can do as a receiver. I think Herbert, at some point, he will be a better rusher or more consistent, non-injured one than he has been. So I think you'd be like, wow, this offense is taking a step forward. But there won't be a specific 1,000-yard rusher. Like we try to get to that number, and it's easier to get to that number these days, obviously. But yeah, I think like 2,000 all-purpose, like Uber Goober Jack says down there, or Jock, excuse me. Sure, say that out loud. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know which one I would pick if I had to pick which one would have over 1,000 yards.
I think that could be kind of twisted as a positive thing, though. Like if both of them are like 800, 900-yard rushers, to me, that's awesome because that means that you have two really great running back seasons. So
yeah,
I think that would be a good. Obviously, I would want one of them or both of them to get over 1,000, but having them each be 800 to 900, that would be great. Atticus, how many running back screens this year? Hopefully more than 9, like it was last year. That would be great. That would be great.
We set the over-unders at 12.5, which is really sad.
That's way too high, probably.
Smash the under. Take the less on PrizePicks. If that popped up on PrizePicks, I would make so much money. But okay.
Yeah. If we could get one screen a game for Amari and Hampton, I would be so happy. And that sucks that that's where we're at with this offense.
More or less one reception per game. All right.
Yeah.
Or screen, I guess. That's different. But yeah. I know Chargers fans will hate that because it's like, we're not, I don't know. Our fans are fine. But some people are like, yeah, there's 2,500 rushing yards between these two guys, and Herbert will have 5,000 throwing yards. It's like something's got to give somewhere. Like this offense can't get a 5,000-yard passer and 3,000 yards on the ground. Like it's not happening. So I do think the passing game, which they've invested quite a bit in, takes a step forward. Running game is more efficient, but it's not a 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah, even with the passing game being better, like I don't think the volume is going to be that great because Justin Herbert's like worst total passing like yards from his career was last season. Like the attempts are just not going to be there. So can they get more touchdowns? Like he only had 23 passing touchdowns last year, which is criminal to me. That should increase because the red zone offense should be a lot more efficient and effective, and I think that will help drive up more touchdowns and stuff like that. So I like that take. I agree with it being bold because there are very reasonable paths where one or both of them could get to 1,000 yards, and so I think that's good. My last one here, I'm going back to the Pro Bowl. And I'm going to say my bold prediction for 2025 is going to be that a non-Derwin James defensive back will make the Pro Bowl. So I think the Chargers have a few candidates here. Obviously, you guys know how I feel about Cam Hart. I don't think you can really classify him here because we just don't know. But a lot of like making the Pro Bowl is the turnover game. And Tariq still had 4 interceptions last year. He dropped 2 other ones. He had 4 pass breakups. Like he got his hands on the football a lot. So I do think that even though I think that Cam Hart is a better film watch, I think Tariq still has the splash plays where he could, if he takes a leap and let's say he gets 8 interceptions, jump into that kind of conversation. Maybe he gets 8 interceptions and maybe he gets, 6 pass breakups or something like that. Maybe he returns one for a touchdown in a big game. I think there's a world where Tariq still could potentially, jump into that kind of conversation. He does overall, I think, just need to improve like the forced incompletion percentage aspect of his game. When you stack up like starting caliber corners, he was tied for 36th in forced incompletion percentage at 8%. So he was graded very well, like just from a consistency aspect of things, interceptions, definitely, pass breakups. Like he's around the football enough where he can make that leap. But if he wants to like really truly cement his status as one of the better corners in the league, that forced incompletion percentage just needs to increase. So there's a lot of times where, he's, tackling the guy right at the catch. There's a lot of times where he's, forcing the guy out of bounds, which is not necessarily like a forced incompletion. Like that part needs to improve. And I think he has the ball production to potentially stand up there. I talked about Alohi last year. I think Elijah Molden is better than him right now. And I think he's just a more reliable, sturdy player. Like I know Elijah Molden ended his season with a broken leg and all that. But Alohi Gilman has been injured like every season outside of 2023. So he's dealt with a lot of injuries himself. So Alohi could be a candidate, but I'm going to say Elijah Molden is the more likely safety candidate.
Yeah.
He had 3 interceptions. He had 2 more that were called back from Chargers penalties, 4 pass breakups. So again, he's always around the football. And he was actually the team's 4th highest graded run defender, and he was top 10 in safeties and run defense. So he's got this combination of where he makes a couple splash plays as a tackler and as a turnover creator in every single game, essentially. So this year he has a full offseason with the team. He's going to be in an elevated role. I think we know he's going to be on the field because the Chargers run 3 safety looks like all the time. So I think there is a reasonable world where Elijah Molden can take that leap and become in the kind of Pro Bowl conversation. Obviously, neither of these guys have like draft pedigree and things like that. They're both, day 3 picks and things like that. They're with Derwin James in the secondary. So it's going to have to take like a truly special turnover season for either of them to make the Pro Bowl. But I think there is a chance that one of them could get there if things kind of fall their way. Bud Dupree stops, roughing the passer penalties in the 4th quarter while Elijah Molden is racking up interceptions. That would be cool. But I think that bold prediction, one of them could make the Pro Bowl in 2025.
I like that. I like that a lot. One of the bold predictions I wrote down that I was going to maybe bring up, but was that the Chargers were going to have 3 Pro Bowl players this year on defense. I think that's like a defensive lineman, Henley,
Derwin and Dayon, I was going to say, are probably the 2 most likely.
Yeah. So maybe even 3, honestly, isn't that bold, but considering like the Chargers will probably vote for like at least Derwin, and then you need 2 more. But yeah, between Cam Hart, maybe Molden, Still, etc. We'll see. Like you said, though, there's not that pedigree. Like looking at the guys last year, it's Pat Surtain, it's Derek Stingley, who deserve it. Like I'm not saying that they don't deserve it, but they're not I don't know how many people know the rest of the Chargers defensive backfield.
Right.
Still a great unit last year. Didn't stop them from being great. But other than like Kirk Cousins in Atlanta, like I don't know how many people know the Chargers defensive backfield.
And Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. Trey Lance in the preseason that one time, which shout out, he's not on the Chargers, but
yeah. One of the games I watched for the Tuli stuff was the Browns game because that was his second game as like a starter. There was a time Jameis Winston threw an interception to Alohi, and there was literally no Browns receiver within like 10 yards of the football. I was like, what are you even looking at here?
And he still played better than Deshaun Watson.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, I think of the 2, I think Elijah has an easier path because safety Pro Bowlers change every single year. Like outside of Derwin, Kyle Hamilton, and some of those other guys, like there's always a safety in there that kind of pops in and out that was like kind of unexpected. So Antoine Winfield Jr. kind of a staple there as well. But they carry 6 safeties in the Pro Bowl, I think. So there's a good chance that Elijah can work his way in there.
Yeah. I hope so, but it's at least good that we're talking positively in these possibilities for multiple names that are not Derwin James.
Yeah. I haven't stewed enough on like where I think the Chargers can be better, like overall, like ranking team wise.
Yeah.
I know I love the safety room. The safety room is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm confident the corners can take a step forward. Linebacker room, I'm pretty confident in. Edge rusher room, I'm pretty confident in. It really is just like the defensive tackles, man. Like I just kind of have to figure out like where I think they're at overall as a unit there. And the schedule is obviously much more difficult. And I like that you pointed this out. Navarro Bowman was like, yeah, last year we had like a shit schedule and like we played all these terrible quarterbacks. I love how aware the Chargers coaching staff is of like, yeah, we had it pretty easy last year.
Yeah, no, I loved everything about Bowman saying that, just because it's true. And I'm glad like they're acknowledging that, not just to themselves, but also publicly. Like, yeah, okay, we beat up on, the 3rd string quarterback for the Saints and God knows whatever, whereas not that Staley ever did or didn't say this, but like that year they beat up the Colts and whoever that was, and Baker Mayfield and the Rams. Like, wow, we're feeling so good about ourselves. Again, not that Brandon Staley ever said anything.
He did like the what if game too, where it was like, oh, if you isolate this and this and this and only focus on this particular 3rd down metric, we're really good.
Yeah, lovely. So I do love that Bowman's like, yeah, we beat up terrible quarterbacks. Let's be good and great against the great ones. And I respect that tremendously.
Yeah, the Bryce Young game, that was another one, as Kevin points out. That was the game that ruined Bryce Young. Credit to him, he did come back and finish strong, but that was rough.
Yeah, Bryce Young, the Raiders in general. arguably the first Bo Nix game until he ran with some divine intervention to almost bringing them back.
The first 3 quarters of that Bo Nix game were awful.
Horrible. It's awful. Not a strong year. Whatever was happening in Tennessee at the time. Drake May got pummeled in that, so it wasn't like meh.
Yeah. So they know that it's going to be much more difficult in 2025, which I appreciate.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Any other final bold takes for you?
I think that was it for me. Yeah, that's I like floated the idea of like where could they be as a red zone scoring team, but I don't know.
That's tough to be bold because like they were in like the 20s last year.
I want to say 18th, but I feel like I'm pulling that out of nowhere.
So like bold would be like top 5, and that's just like not happening.
Correct. Yeah, I thought about like because like that's bold, yeah, but then like they weren't even. I think they were 4th once with the Ravens.
Yeah,
and this I don't know.
Yeah, that was Lamar's first MVP year when like nobody knew how to stop him. They were a great red zone offense. So
yeah. If they're still outside of the top 15 in red zone touchdown scoring percentage with this group, I will take a dump in Greg Roman's RV, like, or at least like in front of it. I can't break and enter, but I will shit and leave on the other side.
You can't break into the link like Alex was going to, but
correct. Yeah, and I'm sure like Jim's right. I don't know. I'm gonna pop a squat in front of his RV, and like Jim opens his next door, and like, hey, guilty as charged.
Write a note. This is for the red zone offense.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man.
That's great. All right, we have a few super chats. So our audio audience is going to take a quick break, and then we are going to touch on these super chats really quick for our YouTube audience. All right, Athir kicking us off today with a super chat says Tarheeb still Cam Hart best corner duo in the NFL. Combined 13 interceptions, Chargers top pass defenses, no fly zone, Bolts top 5 defense, 14-3. Steven, I said it. There's a lot of bold takes in there.
The 13 interceptions between Still and Hart, I think is what he's saying.
That is correct. I think so. Because 13 as a total defense would be very bad.
Okay. Unironically, I'm curious what their schedule is this year, just so I can see what quarterbacks they're facing this year. It should be a better group. Let's see.
Yes.
Gino. Do they pay Baker Mayfield? No, I don't. It's a lot of quarterbacks that aren't going to throw a ton of interceptions unless Danny Dimes decides to give them an absolute.
Yeah, so you're talking about Mahomes, Gino, Bo Nix,
Tuli,
maybe Jackson Dart. Tua. I don't know. Jaden Daniels, Tua. I'm going to say Daniel Jones wins that job in Indy personally. JJ McCarthy. Cam Ward will throw an interception or 2 against them for sure. So the good news there is that they'll have 3 bad quarterbacks in a row. Whoever the Steelers start. Trevor Lawrence has been prone to throw interceptions, as we know. Jalen Hurts doesn't turn the ball over. Dak doesn't turn the ball over. CJ Stroud doesn't turn the ball over. So it's better. There's some definitely workable games in there from an interception standpoint, though.
Yeah, the least bold part is top 5 defense. Like I don't think it'll happen, but I get it. 14-3, I don't see happening.
He's been on that train for a while. So 14-3, that's not even bold for you, Athir. Like you've been on that train, which I respect.
True. That would be bold for us.
The boldest part is obviously Tariq still Cam Hart best corner duo in the NFL. Can they get there eventually? Maybe, for sure. But there's a lot of really like high quality corner duos out there, and some of them include like Patrick Surtain as part of that duo. So.
Yeah,
there's the Eagles duo was so good last year. The Patriots have a really good cornerback duo now with Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis. So there's a lot of great corner duos. That part I think is tough for me to get there, as much as I like the 2 young corners for sure.
Yes, the record prediction stuff is funny because we picked 12-5, and all I got were comments like, "You're too negative." Like, you need to do calls to be more positive. I'm like, what? I said 12-5. And then we have Popper and Rim over here with like 9-8 and 10-6 or both 9-8 or whatever. Which is interesting. But yeah, like 12-5. Like, I love the comments. You're too negative. 13-4. I'm like, that's 1 game difference, guys. Like, give me a break. 12-5 is a very good record, everybody.
Yeah, 11-6 I think is pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
I think 12-5, like that's a pretty positive, record prediction. 14-3, I don't know, man. Like they play a lot of good teams this year, so 3 is That is bold in general, but Aether has been saying 14-3 for a long time.
Yeah, one day he'll be right.
Yeah. Dark Samus, he liked our idea of trading for Evan Neal. He says that he's extremely strong and that it is his best trait.
Wow, we are finally on the same page with Dark Samus and offensive line acquisitions. We did it.
Yeah, we got a lot of positive feedback for that episode, so I appreciate. Our niche is really clear a lot of times, and so people enjoyed our mining for gems last night.
Yeah, only we could say Isaiah Foskey or as random guys to bring
Ricky
up.
Stromberg. Let's go.
Ricky Stromberg, Justin Jones reunion. I love it.
Yeah. Mark Scott with a super sticker. We appreciate that, Mark. Thank you so much.
Great, Scott.
Daddy don't pull out says my bold prediction, I will get drunk on gin. Good for you, I guess.
Are you correct so far? I don't know. Are you correct? Has it paid off? I can't get drunk. I'll die before I get drunk. So you enjoy that.
I've never had alcohol in my life, so I will not be drunk tonight.
Alex,
do you like gin? Have you had gin before?
Probably. I don't know. I'm allergic to alcohol, so I just like I can sip a little bit, but otherwise I'll have.
Wait, I didn't realize that was like all alcohol. I thought it was like beer.
No, like if I other than small bits of at my wedding, I have like a sip of champagne and whatnot, but no, I will like have anaphylaxis before I get drunk. I will just die.
Yeah, we don't want that. We definitely don't want that.
I don't want that. At least I prefer not to die. I got a ways to go.
Yeah, I don't want that. You don't want that. Janae doesn't want that. Like,
no.
It's your sister's birthday today, I think.
Yes, my twin sisters, May 22nd. It is their birthday. So happy birthday to them. We'll be celebrating this weekend.
Nice.
Should be good.
Where are you guys going?
Oh, what restaurant did we end up picking? We were going to go do like a downtown Disney thing because they wanted to do that, but now we're doing another restaurant. I don't recall what it is, but it's an Italian restaurant, and I'm just going to go and eat the food and not drink.
There you go. Shout out to Ashley and Amanda. Happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
Miguel G wants to know, chances Herbert runs more read options this year?
Probably more. I feel like we've had this conversation every year. Like, Herbert's finally going to run more, and then he like breaks his rib or finger or foot or whatever. So theoretically more, but I don't know.
Yeah, they tried to do some of it, but I think his ankle injuries were obviously just it made it difficult to actually run read options. But I think we just need to settle in on Herbert doesn't really like to run all that much. We're 6 years in, and he doesn't want to run, guys. Like I think he will run out of necessity. I don't think he will be doing a lot of design runs in his career.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. That's just kind of like the vibe I get from Justin Herbert is that he just doesn't like to run. Like, he wants to stay in the pocket, throw the football.
What we should do is in a key critical moment when he's injured, we should run him at the goal line.
And
or
then
injured Herbert run, please.
Yeah, let's just design a horrible power run concept where Bradley Bozeman just lets Jeffrey Simmons run right into Justin Herbert.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Was that the Bucks game?
Oh, this is the Titans game. Or wait, I think we might be thinking of two.
I hated the Bucks game, but
yeah,
that was my near crash out right there. That was
I know in the Chiefs game after the Steelers injury, they had him sneak it, and I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah. They should be better than Red Zone, the 18th in the league this year. I pray to God.
Yeah. Joe Alexander says that he was with the wide receivers coach Sanjay Lal and Greg Roman at the golf tournament. That was cool. How'd you get tickets to the golf tournament? That'd be super sick. And they said some interesting stuff. They see this year's room as a vast improvement. I assume he's talking about the receiver room in particular.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just a Trey Harris, Josh Palmer swap. And then Lambert Smith is an actual functional 5th or 6th receiver for them. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Is it a vast improvement? Well, Mike Williams, sorry. Yeah, I guess if you're Chark or Williams, as long as you clear, was it 34 yards?
Yeah.
It's a vast improvement. If you include tight ends in that, definitely with Conklin and Gadsden.
Sure.
So yeah, I think it is a significant improvement.
They're definitely deeper.
Yes.
And I think like Ladd's improvement here should be, considered, but
Mm-hmm.
vast improvement overall. I guess. I don't know. They must feel like last year's room was really terrible then, which it kind of was, but it's not like this room is like amazing. But I think if Mike Williams can stay relatively healthy and Trey Harris can hit right away, like we think he can, I think it's a potentially above average unit, which would be definitely a significant improvement.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like amazing by any stretch.
Yeah. There's another super chat after this, but Joe sent another one real quick. Sanjay Lal saw the Auburn kid as wide receiver 3 of the draft.
Bullshit. No way. No way. There's no chance.
I mean, if that's so, that would imply that Harris was 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Well, I guess technically Sanjay Lal doesn't draft the receivers, but yeah,
there's no way. If that's true, I want a different receiver coach right now.
I agree with them on their McConkey and Harris evaluations, but if Lambert Smith was wide receiver 3,
if that was the case, why didn't they could have just taken him in the 3rd round then? If they liked him that much, they could have taken him. They could have taken him in the 2nd round if they liked him that much.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's no way. There's no way. In the entire receiver class, there's no way.
Yeah. I couldn't get behind that. Like if they thought Trey Harris was wide receiver 3, I could sort of get behind that.
That I could understand.
I could get that. They wanted to trade up for him too. It wasn't a very clean class at all in terms of like character or whatever. But Lambert Smith is wide receiver 3. I don't know. But again, that is just, if it were true, that is just Law's opinion, not the front office.
And I believe you, Joe. Like, I'm not trying to make this seem like we don't believe what you're saying, that you heard from him. I just don't, like, there's no way that is actually what he thought. Because like, I don't know, man. Like, he was drafted as like wide receiver 20.
Yeah, I don't know. No way to prove in either direction. I would love to see that big board if that were a legitimate board. I don't know.
Yeah, Joe says that he said that his talent has the talent, but it's on him to coach out of it. I agree that he's a talented football player.
Yeah.
Says that his talent is limitless. That part I don't agree with. He's a talented football player, but he's definitely a project wide receiver for sure.
Yeah. And I think if you say it's on a coach to get that talent out of him, even though it's limitless, that implies that he's not a well-rounded prospect just yet. It's more on the talent and the bet on the upside. Sure. And I couldn't put that player as wide receiver 3. I'm not a wide receivers coach. I don't evaluate these players. So I don't know. But
yeah. I had him as I put a wide receiver 20 grade on him after they drafted him, and I feel like that was pretty ambitious. Like, most people had him at that range or lower. Dane Brugler, I think, was pretty high on him and had him at like wide receiver 18. And I think he was like the most positive Keandre Lambert Smith fan. So he could be an effective, player for the NFL, right? Like, he has the speed and he has some intriguing like ball skills and things like that.
Yeah.
But wide receiver 3 is really irresponsible if that is actually how he ranked them.
Yeah. Very, very curious what the expectations are among Chargers fans for these receivers. I know someone earlier said, I think it was a bold prediction, but Lambert Smith to have 500 receiving yards, which would be sick. So Jackson pointed out like 500 for him. I don't know. I don't know about that one.
As a bold prediction, I get why you would put that out there. Like, as a reasonable expectation, if KLS has more than like 200 yards, like, I'll be happy. Like, I think there's a very real chance that he is a healthy scratch on game days, because you have your 4 wide receivers who I think are pretty entrenched. Like, by the end of the season, can Keandre Lambert Smith maybe pass Mike Williams or Quentin Johnson? I guess, like, theoretically that's true. But this team remains very high on Quentin, and they just posted like a 15-minute cutout of Mike Williams touchdowns today. Like Justin Herbert is going to throw the football to Mike Williams, and obviously Trey Harris, Ladd McConkey are going to play. Like those four are the guys, and then Darius Davis is going to be active because he's the returner. Like there's a real chance that KLS is inactive on game days because it's very difficult for this particular offense to have 6 up on game days. So if he can have 200 yards this year, like I think that to me is like an awesome rookie season.
Yeah. Yeah, he just needs to have a not Brendan Rice season. Like contribute, get in there, have a positive preseason, keep developing. If he has limitless talent, keep mining that from him. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and I think preseason should be good for him. You know, I think the Chargers backup quarterback situation is a lot better. So he's somebody that I think I'm pretty excited to watch in the preseason. There's 4 games, so he should get a pretty heavy workload in the preseason, and with better quarterback play, we should get a pretty good evaluation for where he's at, you know, as a rookie in the first 4 games.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Isaiah and Kelsey Lewis, thoughts on SPS scores? Are they legitimate? I don't know what SPS scores were referring
I Googled it. I think it's referring to star predictor score, quarterback star predictor score, or is this an education acronym that I completely forgot?
I know. The second thing that I saw when I Googled it was like a thing for Fresno Unified. So
I got nothing on that. New metric that's turning heads. Unexpected QB outranks Mahomes. So SPS test rankings. It is a data-driven model designed to predict a player's potential success based on a combination of position-specific metrics, blah, blah, blah. Created by Brainy Ballers, a fantasy football platform. All right, you're losing me a bit there. Tracks metrics, yada, yada. There was someone recently compiling data showing like based on these metrics, you know, are they good? Are they bad? I don't know. I don't know much about it yet, but this is an Arjun question.
Yeah, Arjun would have an opinion there for sure. I don't know enough. Good question. Like I'll look into it, I guess, but yeah, I have not heard of this until today.
If it's new, I don't know. Have they? I'm curious if they've retroactively gone and applied this, like this metric and how it bared out in the regular season. Otherwise, we'll need more years of this to really see like what does it carry over year to year, that sort of thing. Right. Is it stable?
Good question though. Like I am going to go look into this. So I thank you, Isaiah and Kelsey Lewis, for that. But I wish I had more for you. I have not heard of that until right now.
Is it Isaiah or Kelsey who sends these in? I know. You can answer that, Isaiah or Kelsey Lewis, or both of you. But I'm just very curious because it's both of you on the name, but. Yeah, I don't know much about it.
Yeah. Daddy Don't Pull Out says that he is correct. So he is drunk on gin right now.
Hey, you know,
so, good for you.
Thursday night, man. Oh, Jackson Dart has the highest SPS score.
Atticus asked this earlier. Will you guys get a tattoo of Gak when y'all retire the channel? Hello, I can't get tattoos, so that's a no for me. But do you have tattoos? I don't know that.
I don't have tattoos. I don't have tattoos. I don't really have any intention of getting them. My sisters do. My parents don't, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, I won't. If Steven dropped dead right now, I still would not. No offense, don't drop dead.
Wow.
I won't get a tattoo of you, man. Like, sorry. But which butt cheek would you prefer if I did?
Why did you go to butt cheek?
I don't know, because I can hide that.
Sure, you could hide your thigh also, and not be weird.
The thigh's kind of weird. I don't know. Something about thighs a little too weird. Butt cheek's a little funny. Thighs a little personal.
Okay, fair.
We officially passed the hour mark on our channel.
Yeah,
but no, I will not get a tattoo. Anyways, the point is, I will not be getting a tattoo. And also, please don't die. And yes, channel retirement discussion is not an imminent thing, but we've been bringing it up. I'm not going to be doing this in 10 years, maybe even 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I respect anybody who does the podcasting stuff while you have kids. And you know, some of the other podcasters have multiple children and a full-time job and stuff like that. I already feel like I am having less time for the podcast with my job, like taking so much more of my life up. And when we do have kids in the future, like I don't know, I just can't. I'm like I want to be fully present as a dad. Like I don't want to say to my wife like, hey, I just got home at 4:30 and we're recording in an hour. Bye, have fun with the kid. Like I want to be able to like contribute as a dad. So unfortunately, like the podcast just eventually is at least going to change once we have kids. But we have loved having this. Like I don't think when we started this we really thought we would be doing this for 6 years. Like I think we just wanted to talk about the Chargers and have fun doing it. So
Yeah.
It's been a blast, and I hope it continues to be a blast. You will have us full time for this upcoming season at minimum.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of see where we go from there. So Brooke is not currently pregnant, but I think we could probably do one more draft. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, like I just don't understand how other people do a full time job and raise kids. Like to me, I think it's just like I want to be there for my future kids and be able to help Brooke out and not be that guy who's, you know, working 45, 50 hours a week and also doing 20 to 25 hours of podcasting. But
yes,
you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Alternatively, if you guys send us like $5,000 per episode,
if you send us enough super chats where we do not have to work full time, then we will keep doing the podcast.
Correct. And I will get a tattoo of one of you on my butt cheek. There's the deal. No, I'm just kidding. There is a significant time commitment. It is truly, I mean, honestly, like yesterday's episode on mining for draft picks, like that, or not draft picks, for gems and whatnot, that took a couple of hours, I think, to just do that for one show. That seems like a random offshoot. So yes, coming home, you know, beyond work responsibilities, beyond going to the gym and things like that, like there's not a lot of time.
Yeah, I think once we do have kids, like I could do like the Sunday recaps and just like vibe with you guys. But
yeah,
you know, right now, like my routine for the Chargers, right, is like we do our game recaps on Sunday. So that's, you know, 5 hours right there watching the game, doing the podcast, editing the podcast, uploading it, all that stuff. Then Monday I watched like 4 hours of Chargers film. We recorded the film takeaways on Tuesday. So again, that's like another 2-3 hours. Then we prep for the next game, which is on Wednesday. And then Thursday we record. And then we do Saturday Q&A. So it's a lot of time. And then even during the draft, right? Like people are like, oh, you do less podcast stuff now. It's like, well, I'm trying to get to 150 graded prospects, which takes me, you know, 20 to 30 hours for each prospect. So
yeah,
it's a lot. Like we put a ton of time into this, and you guys are very gracious. Like we had a shit ton of views for the draft, which is so much fun. But eventually, like I'm just not going to have time to do that kind of stuff, and I wouldn't want to be doing this if I'm not putting in the time and effort to put out the quality content that we have.
No, God, no. We do this with, and we're like almost an hour and 10 minutes now, but we especially with the draft, like I hate the idea of giving you guys an opinion that's just uninformed or lacking significantly. I mean, we like from very early on, like brought on Arjun just to have like a fact checker or someone to give you like actual data that presents like, hey, this narrative is true or not true, whatever. Like we do so much to try to give you like the most informed one. I would hate it. And Steven and I do not have asked this at all. Wrong all the time, right? Often too. Wrong all the time. That's the nature of the business. But it's never from an uninformed, usually, perspective. And I can't imagine just being like, yeah, yee-hoo and everything with nothing to talk about or no data to go back on or any film watch. Like it's difficult. We can't half-ass it, therefore we can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Part of the beauty of this whole thing is like you we put in so much work, and then we get to show our work essentially. And
Yes.
I think if we're not putting in the work, it's tougher for me to actually like justify doing stuff. So
Yeah.
that's, like I said, at minimum, you have us for this upcoming season and the draft season. We'll cross the bridge about future kids when we get to that point. So
Yes.
we appreciate you guys so much. You know, you guys are the reason why we continue to do this, and we love all the support. So 8 super chats on a random Thursday. You know, we got up to like 225 people in the chat tonight at one point. So we love you guys so much, and we appreciate all the support. As always, make sure to leave a rating, a like, a comment. All that stuff does really help continue to grow the show. We know it's May. We know it's the dark days of the off season, but continue to help us out. It really does mean a lot. Check out PrizePicks, all that good stuff. This has been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. As always, bolt up.